Buenas and half a day, everybody. This public hearing is now called to order, and the time now is 2:03 p.m. this Friday, Biba Betness, June 12th, 2026. This hearing is conducted by myself, Senator Telo Taitague, Chairwoman on the Committee on Economic Investment, Military Buildup, Regional Relations, Technology, Regulatory Affairs, Justice, Election, and Retirement. To comply to the open government law, notices of this hearing was published on PBS Guam and the Government of Guam public notice portal on June 5th, 2026. And the second notice was on Wednesday, June 10th, 2026. Notice of this hearing was disseminated to all senators and media via email and was made available on the Guam legislature's website. I would like to recognize those who are here in person and those who are watching from home. Welcome to your Guam legislature. I would also like to welcome my colleagues who have joined us today. To my left, my co-chair, or my vice chair on judicial is Senator Therese Chalahi. Also is joining us is Vice Speaker Tony Ada. Good morning, or good afternoon, and Senator Sean Gumatauta. Good afternoon. Colleagues, copies of the testimonies and documents received ahead of this hearing can be accessed through the Google Drive link, which is published on the public hearing notice for this hearing and also emailed to you in advance. And we have provided you testimony that just recently came in to you. So if there's anything else you need assistance for, please feel free to ask me. For the listening public, you can access the Google Drive link on the public hearing notice published on the Government of Guam public notice portal at notices.guam.gov or on the Guam Legislature's website at guamlegislature.gov. If you need assistance, please feel free to call the legislature at 671-472-3465. Before we begin, I'd like to set some rules of engagement. So first, when you speak, please speak directly into the microphone. And for the record, please state your name, position, and who you represent. I ask those who are testifying today to stay seated for any questions my colleagues may have, and then you'll be excused. I respectfully ask that we conduct ourselves professionally and respect each other's opinion. Those individuals who do not comply with these rules will be removed from the room and prohibited from further participation. The agenda today is the appointment of Jonathan R. Quan to serve as a magistrate judge to the Superior Court of Guam for a term length of 4 years. So before I begin, I would just want to give you a little bit of history on the appointment of Magistrate Judge Jonathan R. Quan. I would like to briefly place into the record the history of this appointment and the standards associated with his office. In 2018, Jonathan R. Quan was appointed by the Chief Justice of Guam and subsequently confirmed by the Legislature in Guam to serve a 4-year term as a magistrate judge. In 2022, pursuant to 7 GCA Section 4401, the Judicial Council adopted Resolution Number JC22016, reappointing Magistrate Judge Quan to an additional 4-year term. His current term is scheduled to expire on September 4th, 2026. As of June 2026, Judge Quan has served continuously as a magistrate judge for nearly 8 years. Under Guam law of service beyond the current term will require the legislature's confirmation. In preparation for the expiration of Judge Quan's term, the Chief Justice requested that the Guam Bar Association solicit recommendations for qualified candidates. Following the Guam Bar Association's nomination and review process, Judge Quan was recommended by the Chief Justice as the first-ranked candidate for appointment. On April 9th, 2026, The Chief Justice transmitted Judge Quan's appointment to the Speaker of Legislature in Guam, and the appointment was then referred to my committee on April 17, 2026. Pursuant to the committee's review of the appointments, a background verification report was compiled to assess compliance with the eligibility requirements set forth in law and to assist senators in evaluating the appointment. That confidential report was made available to the committee members and all senators for review in advance of today's public hearing. Also, the duties and authority and standards of a magistrate judge. Under 7 GCA Chapter 4, Article 4, Magistrates and Satellite Courts, magistrate judges are appointed to assist the Superior Court in the administration of justice and performance duties assigned by law, court rule, or order of the Superior Court. A magistrate judge generally may, 1, conduct initial appearances, arraignments in criminal matters, issue warrants, summons, and related criminal process, set bail and conditions of release, conduct preliminary hearings and other pretrial proceedings, hear motions and matters referred by the Superior Court judges, preside over certain civil, family, traffic, juvenile, probate, small claims, and special proceedings as authorized by court rule or assignment, administer oath and affirmations, make findings, recommendations, and orders within the scope of authority delegated by the statute of the Superior Court, perform other judicial duties assigned by the presiding judge or Superior Court. Because magistrates are judicial officers, they exercise many of the powers granted to judges under Chapter 7, including conducting court proceedings, maintain order and decorum in court, administering oath, issuing orders necessary to carry out jurisdictions into effect, exercising competent powers where authorized, performing judicial acts in chambers when permitted. Furthermore, magistrate judges are held to the same ethical standards as judges of Superior Court and are subject to Guam's judiciary disciplinary system. Pursuant to 7 GCA 6103, judges must adhere to the American Bar Association of Judicial Ethics, which requires judges to uphold the integrity and independence of the judiciary, avoid impropriety and the appearance of impropriety, perform judicial duties impartially and diligently, avoid conflicts of interest, and maintain public confidence in the courts. Violation of these standards may constitute grounds for discipline or removal. Finally, judges are prohibited from engaging in political activities, including making political contributions, holding office in political parties, or participating in political campaigns pursuant to GCA 6104. Judges must also recuse themselves from proceedings in which their impartiality may reasonably be questioned, or where a conflict of interest exists pursuant to 7 GCA 6105 through 6107. Further, judges are prohibited from practicing law while serving on the bench pursuant to 7 GCA 6110. So at this time, my office has taken the initiative to also invite several people to participate in this public hearing, confirmation hearing. Honorable Chief Justice Catherine Merriman, President Jacqueline Terlahi, board member of the Guam Association, all members of the Judicial Council of Guam, all members of the Guam Bar Association, Honorable Associate Justice Robert Torres, Honorable Associate Justice Phil Carbolito, Honorable Attorney General of Guam Douglas B. Moylan, Public Defender Service Corporation Executive Director Stephen Notori, all members of the public via our public notices that was disseminated and mentioned earlier. So at this time, I would like to begin with the testimony from those who came before, and out of respect, I would like to first recognize our Chief Justice of Guam. Chief Justice Merriman, you are now recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I appreciate very much the chair's efforts to get this matter resolved before the end of Judge Quan's term, so thank you for that. Hafaday, Madam Chair and members of the committee, Senator Atta, Senator Gumatauto, and Senator Terlahi. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony in support of Magistrate Judge Jonathan R. Quan's confirmation to continue serving as a Magistrate Judge of the Superior Court of Guam. Pursuant to 7 GCA Section 4401, Magistrate Judge Quan was first appointed in 2018. In 2022, the Judicial Council reappointed him to an additional 4-year term through resolution number JC 22-16. His current appointment now requires legislative confirmation, and absent confirmation, his term will expire on September 4th, 2026. For the past 8 years, Magistrate Judge Quan has proven himself to be a capable and dedicated judicial officer. His experience as a litigator and former prosecutor is reflected in the way he approaches cases with preparation and fairness. He handles a demanding caseload and has earned the confidence of his colleagues and court users. In addition to his responsibilities on the bench, Magistrate Judge Quan has taken on leadership roles that have benefited the judiciary and the broader justice system. He has helped lead the judiciary's electronic monitoring pilot program, which explores alternatives to detention that protect public safety while making efficient use of government resources. He also serves as chair of the Criminal Law and Procedure Review Commission. Through that role, he has worked with representatives from all 3 branches of government to review and improve Guam's criminal laws and procedures. Magistrate Judge Quan continues to serve as a major in the Guam Army National Guard's JAG Corps. His continued military service reflects the same commitment to public service that he brings to the judiciary. Magistrate judges are often the first judges that members of the public encounter. They make critical decisions affecting liberty, safety, and access to justice. The work carries significant responsibility and requires careful decision-making and judicial temperament. Magistrate Judge Quan has consistently demonstrated those qualities throughout his tenure. With your approval, Magistrate Judge Quan will continue to serve his service to the people of Guam and to the administration of justice in our Superior Court. I respectfully urge Elisha Sharon Guahan to confirm his appointment, and again thank the committee for its consideration and prompt attention to this matter. If there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief Justice. And at this time, I would like to recognize the Honorable Associate Justice, Philip Carbolito. You are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the committee, Senator Therese Terlahi, Senator Sean Gumatauto, and Vice Speaker Senator Tony Atta. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you at today's public hearing on the renomination of Jonathan R. Quan as Magistrate Judge of the Superior Court of Guam. For the record, my name is Philip Carbolito, and I am currently an Associate Justice on the Supreme Court of Guam. I have been on the bench for approximately 26 years, and before that in private practice for about 22 years. I am confident other speakers will testify as to Jonathan's intellect, character, and ethics, which I do not minimize. My purpose today is to offer insight how Magistrate Quan's broad legal career, spanning about 30 years as a law clerk, judge advocate in the Guam Army National Guard, solicitor in the Civil Division, prosecutor in the Criminal Division of the Office of the Attorney General, assistant professor at Guam Community College, private practitioner, and magistrate judge, has shaped the listening skills and wisdom to be a fair and impartial jurist. I will speak from observed conduct and personal experience with Jonathan in private practice. Jonathan clerked for the Honorable Catherine A. Merriman, our current Chief Justice, who you just heard from, when she was a judge in the Superior Court of Guam. This type of work trains a young lawyer to examine records with care, distill complex factual patterns, listen closely to counsel's arguments, research relevant case law, and prepare written memorandums to help the judge resolve the dispute. Jonathan is a major, as you've heard from Chief Justice Merriman, in the Guam Army National Guard, serving as a judge advocate assigned as the Senior Defense Counsel for the Guam Trial Defense Service. While I never served as a judge advocate in the Guard, I assume the military legal service requires structured listening, discipline advisory work, and strict adherence to codified standards. And as a solicitor in the Civil Division of the Attorney General's Office, advising agencies such as the Guam Police Department and the Customs and Quarantine Agency, a staff attorney must reconcile statutory directives with operational realities, often across multiple stakeholders. As a criminal prosecutor, handling criminal cases requires meticulous evaluation of witness credibility, judicious use of charging discretion, and protection of the accused's rights while simultaneously advancing the interests of the people of Guam. As an assistant professor at the Guam Community College, teaching cultivates patience, clarity, and the discipline to translate legal principles for diverse learners, traits that strengthens courtroom communication. And approximately 8 years in private practice with a role in a case that went all the way to the United States Supreme Court, exposed Jonathan to high-stakes litigation and the human dimensions of clients' concerns, reinforcing the need for the patient listening and pragmatic case management. Finally, Jonathan's 8 years as a magistrate judge tested his temperament, docket management skills, and commitment to the fair and impartial treatment of all parties. In closing, Madam Chair and members of the committee, Magistrate Judge Jonathan R. Quan's public record shows a breadth of legal and academic experience, a sincere work ethic, and a balanced temperament, which further informs my support for his renomination. Thank you for your consideration and for the committee's continuing service to the people of Guam. Sujus Masit.
You're very welcome. Is there someone here going to be reading the testimony for the Honorable Associate Justice Torres?
Would you like me to do that? No.
If you would like to, yes. Yeah, thank you.
Justice Torres extends his apologies, but one of his nieces is getting married this afternoon, so he asked me to read his testimony.
Please proceed.
Thank you for the opportunity to submit testimony concerning the reappointment of Magistrate Judge Jonathan R. Quan. At the outset, I wish to clarify the scope of my testimony. As a sitting justice of the Supreme Court of Guam, I remain bound by the Guam Rules for Judiciary Discipline Enforcement and AB Model Code of Judicial Conduct. These rules limit my participation in proceedings that may be viewed as providing personal character testimony or lending the prestige of judicial office to advance the private interests of another. Accordingly, my testimony is limited to my professional observations of Magistrate Judge Quan's performance of his judicial duties, particularly during my tenure as Chief Justice. The office of Magistrate Judge carries broad and significant responsibilities. A magistrate may be called upon to conduct criminal first appearances and arraignments, make bail and pretrial release determinations, issue search and arrest warrants, preside over preliminary hearings, address discovery and other pretrial matters, and accept pleas and impose sentences in misdemeanor cases. A magistrate may also preside over small claims, traffic, and other civil proceedings and serve in other capacities as assigned. These are not merely administrative or routine functions. They involve the exercise of judicial judgment, careful preparation, respect for procedural rights, and the ability to manage a substantial and varied caseload efficiently. In many instances, the magistrate is the first judicial officer encountered by a member of the public. The magistrate's performance, therefore, directly affects both the administration of justice and the public's perception of the courts. During my tenure as Chief Justice, I observed Magistrate Judge Quan perform these responsibilities with diligence, professionalism, and a clear understanding of the limits and obligations of judicial office. He consistently took on assignments that helped the Superior Court manage its high-volume docket, deliver timely justice, and better serve the community. In addition, he continues to provide valued leadership in the Criminal Law and Procedure Review Commission and the Electronic Monitoring Program. Magistrate Judge Quan's professional background has also provided him with a useful breadth of experience. Before his appointment in 2018, he practiced law in the private sector, served as a tenured assistant professor at Guam Community College, and worked as an assistant attorney general. As a senior prosecutor, he supervised and prosecuted felony and misdemeanor matters. He later served as the assistant attorney general solicitor assigned to the Guam Police Department and the Guam Customs and Quarantine Agency. Through the combination of private practice, public service, teaching, prosecution, and military service, Magistrate Judge Quan has gained valuable insight into the workings of the justice system. This experience has provided him with a clear understanding of the roles and responsibilities of attorneys, law enforcement officers, litigants, and the courts. My observations are based not simply upon his resume or reputation, but upon his performance in carrying out the work assigned to him within the judiciary of Guam. Based on those professional observations, he has demonstrated the competence, work ethic, judicial temperament, and commitment to public service necessary to perform the duties of a magistrate. I respectfully offer these observations to assist the members of the legislature in Guam in evaluating Magistrate Judge Quan's record of service and his qualifications for continued office. Subject to the ethical limitations I have described, I support the confirmation of Magistrate Judge Jonathan R. Quan for reappointment. Siju Usmasi for the opportunity to provide this testimony and for your careful consideration of his record. Submitted by the Honorable Robert J. Torres, Associate Justice.
Sijus Masi, Chief Justice. And at this time, I'd like to recognize Judge Maria Senzon for her testimony. You are now recognized, ma'am.
Buenas and half a day, members of the committee, Chairperson Taitague, Co-Chair Terlahi, Vice Speaker Atta, and of course, Senator Gumatautau. Nice to see you again, Mr. Gumatautau, given that we shared the same role at one point at the judiciary as Director of Policy and Planning. I am here to testify both in writing as well as orally in support of the nomination of Magistrate Judge Jonathan R. Quan, and would like to read my written testimony into the record. All right, I'm writing to express my staunch support for the nomination of Magistrate Judge Jonathan R. Quan to serve another term as Magistrate Judge for the Superior Court of Guam. Magistrate Quan's extensive professional experience, which you have heard just from the three of us sitting here, his commitment to public service, and his dedication to the people of Guam make him an exceptional candidate for this very important position. Since his appointment to the Superior Court of Guam in September 2018, Magistrate Judge Quan has served the island and the courts with distinction and integrity. His legal career, as you've heard also, spans more than a decade, including 8 years in private practice, as well as an associate professor at the Guam Community College. In that capacity, he demonstrated his dedication to education and to the development of future leaders of the island. Magistrate Judge Quan's service as an Assistant Attorney General of Guam, where he supervised and prosecuted felony and misdemeanor cases, including some in front of my court, further underscores his deep understanding of the law and his commitment to justice and to the rule of law. In addition, his role as the Assistant Attorney General in the Solicitor's Division, assigned to the Guam Police Department and, of course, to the Guam Customs and Quarantine Agency, highlights his knowledge of particular laws and regulations which are applicable to critical law enforcement agencies. But beyond his legal and academic achievements, Magistrate Judge Quan's service in the Guam Army National Guard reflects his unwavering dedication to our island's safety and its well-being. His impressive educational background, including a Bachelor of Arts at the University of Pennsylvania and his Juris Doctorate from the Loyola University Law School in Los Angeles. I wear my pin as an alumni of Loyola in Chicago, so he is also a brethren in that respect. His education showcases his commitment to excellence. Further, his discipline and his leadership are evident through his accomplishments in various martial arts, some of which he has also exhibited in court. And his diverse interests are exemplified in him as a very talented musician. And I know this from personal experience, having once sang with him a long time ago while he was very talented on the keyboards. So personally, I do know Magistrate Judge Jonathan Quan, and this extends beyond our youthful practice as doctors of the law, but also when we were still in school. And my knowledge about him personally, I would like to state, indicates that he is highly committed to and loyal to family, friends, and his colleagues. And that speaks volumes about his unassailable character beyond his professional career. These are personal observations that I have witnessed. We've heard testimony about the increasing docket that he has to manage as a magistrate judge, and his unwavering dedication and willingness to assist the trial court in the administration of justice is one of the reasons why I, as the middle child of the trial court judges, am here to support his nomination. His tireless work, both as a settlement judge as well as a magistrate judge, hearing the first appearances, hearing motions for bail reductions, hearing a multitude of different types of cases, is very difficult when one has to switch that kind of mindset from a criminal to a non-criminal type of case. And I do admire his ability to do that with such grace and with integrity and with a key to justice. So beyond his professional career, I know him to be kind, thoughtful, generous, and compassionate, with a fantastic sense of humor beneath his hard candy shell. Magistrate Judge Quan's unique combination of legal expertise, his commitment to public service and to the community, and his involvement makes him highly qualified to continue to serve the island he loves so much as magistrate judge. I'm confident that he will continue to uphold the highest standards of justice and contribute positively to the Superior Court of Guam and to the island of Guam. Therefore, I respectfully urge you, the committee, your colleagues in the Guam legislature, to support the nomination of Magistrate Judge Quan to continue in his service. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much for that testimony. And at this time, I'd like to recognize our Attorney General of Guam, Attorney General Doug Moylan. You are now recognized, sir.
Hafaday Chairwoman Telo Taitague, Vice Speaker Tony Yatta, Vice Chairwoman Therese Jalahi, and Senator Sean Gumatautau. My name is Douglas Moylan, and I am the Attorney General of Guam. I was elected to protect and represent we the people of Guam. Literally, that is each and every one of you in this room. My testimony today is on behalf of my client, myself as the Attorney General, and in my personal capacity. Put simply, I support Jonathan Quan's renomination as a magistrate judge for another term. My observation of Magistrate Judge Quan, both as a democratically elected Attorney General and before that as a private defense attorney, is that Jonathan Quan has performed his duties consistent with the role of a magistrate judge. He has attempted to make the best decision possible given the nature of the proceedings. He also directly addresses criminal defendants, warning them of the harsh consequences that he will impose if that defendant violates his order. As you know, one of the functions of a magistrate judge is to make preliminary decisions based upon limited information and must take many factors into consideration. As Guam's chief law enforcement officer, I'm a law enforcer operating in the executive branch. I serve in the trenches with my men and women renegade prosecutors. We support Magistrate Judge Quan because we know he makes decisions focused upon protecting our client and Guam's crime victims. I call my team renegades because it is the wild, wild west when dealing with the daily triage created by the meth addicts, repeat criminals, and their sometimes unscrupulous defense attorneys who assert speedy trial to try to sack my prosecutors, the crime victims, and our client, we the people. I submit with this written testimony last month's catch, release, and reoffend report my team publishes every month. The shocking part of these reports are not only the number, but the arrests being made that show another 109 alleged violations of release orders, and 19 of those being released and violating the release orders being identified in another crime. The important fact is another crime victim suffered that would not have been victimized had the pretrial criminal defendant not been released. We all wish to support and thank Judge Quan for being flexible with GPD and my prosecutors when arrests need to have an unscheduled hearing to prevent a criminal defendant's release in order to comply with the 48-hour rule to be brought before a judge or magistrate judge. He recognizes that so much more goes into preparing a defendant for magistrate than simply filing papers. GPD has to investigate and create written police reports, upload the docs into their computers, and then my prosecutors and staff need to conduct its review and research to evaluate and prepare criminal charges, prepare the motions for pretrial confinement, contact the victims under the Crime Victim Bill of Rights, finalize the legal paperwork, and appear at the hearing. Apart from appearing at the hearings, this elaborate legal process must often be done within 4 hours and filed by 12 noon before the 3 p.m. daily magistrate hearing. The numbers of defendants ranges from a couple, which is rare, to 16 or more criminal suspects requiring a magistrate. Our logistical requirements is 1 prosecutor for 3 police reports, which is difficult when there are 6 full-time criminal courts that need prosecutors each workday. At the end of the day, we are all on the same side. We are all paid by our taxpayers to keep them safe and enjoy the privileges and protections American citizens are entitled to receive. This fight against criminals and the suffering they cause requires every one of us being interested first with protecting our people. People care little about rights when they are being threatened with pain, suffering, injury, and death. This is what separates the leaders from the woke, soft-on-crime liberal socialists. Under a weak-on-crime approach, people needlessly suffer and die. Under a strong attorney general and criminal justice system, the criminals are separated in prison from we law-abiding citizens and residents. As an AG, I must find, recruit, and hire enough prosecutors in an environment of dwindling local attorneys to staff not only the daily and Saturday or holiday magistrate function, but to also staff the 6 other criminal courts. I also attached to my written testimony the 10-point proposed law that my prosecutors and I developed to make my clients safer and protect our crime victims in our magistrate process. We ask you, esteemed senators, to please conduct a public hearing so that we can do our jobs in protecting our community against those criminals who would hurt and kill us. In sum, we support Magistrate Judge Jonathan Quan in continuing his important role in protecting our crime victims and client. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. And at this time, I'd like to recognize former Chief of Police, Frank Ishizaki. You are now recognized, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Senator, Madam Chair. Vice Speaker Terahi, thank you. Gentlemen, Senators Thank you for allowing me to testify. All the great things said about Jonathan Quan, I'm not going to repeat any of that. What I'd like to do is just encourage you to go through the confirmation process and get him to continue another 4 years. I cannot think of a more suitable magistrate judge than Jonathan Quan. He is an accomplished jurist with broad-based experiences, and that's judicial leadership is probably the least understood and often unappreciated by our community. Legal professionals are often ill-equipped to serve as judges. It takes a special person to effectively and fairly administer justice. Jonathan Quan is that special person and is an excellent choice for this position. And I commend Chief Justice Merriman for reappointing him. I know Jonathan on a personal basis because I teach at the University of Guam, and he's always been accommodating to allow my students to observe the process of the magistrate courts. And so I'm just here to say, please confirm him. I fully endorse him. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And at this time, I would, before I excuse you, I'd like to ask if my colleagues have any questions for any of the ones sitting for the panel. Any questions? Any questions? No. Okay, at this time, you are excused, and we will call the next panel up. Okay. So while they're being excused, I'd like to call to the floor Carl Espaldon. You have checked off oral. If you did check off oral, I'll be calling your name. So Carl Espaldon, we have Andrew Kinga, checked off oral. David B. Rhino, I hope I pronounced that okay. James, and this is Bernas, B-E-R-N-A-S, I think. Okay. How do you pronounce your name, sir? Bernas, okay. Did Christine Balsetta, it looks like it's scratched out, said never mind. Okay. Michael Pangilinan, Michael Pangilinan. I think we have some more chairs. Chafris, Carolina. Chafris, Carolina, okay. Peter Santos, is he here? Okay. Dr. Marlene? Yeah. Yeah. I think we're full so far. Okay, we still have one more panel, I believe. I wonder if we have another. Is Peter Santos? He's gone already? Okay. So you know what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start from the end, and we'll go from there. Just please state your name for the record and who you represent. You are now recognized. Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Marlene Quintanilla. I'm a teacher at Tizen High School. Today I'm actually going to be reading a written testimony. So the following written testimony was submitted by attorney Christina L. Baird and is being read into the record on her behalf. Dear Senators, Senator Taitague and committee members, I'm writing this letter in support of Jonathan R. Quan's nomination to serve as magistrate judge in the Superior Court of Guam. I have been a member in good standing of the Guam Bar Association since 1993 and have personally known Jonathan R. Quan for nearly 10 years. From my experiences with Jonathan, I could fill these pages with many examples as to why he, in my opinion, has all the important qualities and skills that a magistrate judge should possess. I would like, though, to limit my written testimony to one superior quality of Jonathan that I have seen him demonstrate repeatedly. That quality is Jonathan's unselfish desire to make things better. As simple as it sounds, this goes beyond just meeting the basic duties of a job. This quality is Jonathan's unwavering dedication to go beyond what is required of him to improve the judicial system for the betterment of the entire community. By way of background, our professional encounters began at the Judiciary of Guam in 2018, when I served as a staff attorney and Jonathan was serving his first term as a magistrate judge. At this time, the Department of Correction had issues with overcrowding and some sort of solution was needed. One excellent solution was the starting up of an electronic monitoring program. Jonathan and I were tasked to put an EM program together from scratch. This task was in addition to Jonathan's duties as magistrate judge. Jonathan worked many late nights to develop this program. Under Jonathan's direction, the EM program blossomed from "that's a good idea" to a functioning program that continues to serve many redeeming purposes to the whole island community. While serving as the administrator of the court from 2020 to 2023, I continued to witness Jonathan in his role as a magistrate judge and his dedication to the position and beyond. During the pandemic, the judiciary faced many challenges to operations due to the COVID restrictions. Jonathan was always one of the first to offer up suggestions and methods to ensure that the constitutional rights of the parties that came before the judiciary were protected while still working to comply with the varying COVID restrictions. During the pandemic years, Jonathan was one of the first judicial officers to engage in video conferencing technologies. There were many late nights at the judiciary when Jonathan appeared like a ghost in a robe at my office to offer up some new suggestion or idea for operational improvement. During the pandemic years, Jonathan also spent many hours working within the judiciary's administrative departments and even with the judiciary's partners such as the Department of Corrections, making sure that they had what they needed to literally keep the wheels of justice moving. I attended many meetings with Jonathan during this time and was always impressed by his dedication to the operation and willingness to be the experimental courtroom to test out new technologies, even if it failed. I can remember Jonathan's steadfast commitment to working out the kinks when a training video we used from his courtroom ended up showing the parties blurring in and out of the video screen like a bad cartoon. During this time, I also witnessed firsthand as Jonathan agreed to take not only his own work as a magistrate judge, but the additional docket work of a Superior Court judge who had vacated that position. Jonathan was committed to making sure the cases did not sit idle while a new Court judge was being selected. I never heard him complain about the two dockets he was handling. Instead, he was constantly pushing the cases forward in both dockets. Apparently, he did such a good job that when the next Superior Court judge vacated the position, Jonathan was assigned the judge's docket to handle on top of his own. I also witnessed Jonathan go beyond what was required of him in his duties as a magistrate judge and lend his skill and expertise in martial arts to train on his own time both the judiciary's marshals and probation officers in the tactical application of the blade, flashlight, and expandable baton. I personally witnessed Jonathan staying late at the judiciary to teach the new law enforcement officers how to do a cell extraction for an unruly detained client. Jonathan even went as far as providing a detailed video on various scenarios in which his martial arts skills would assist the law enforcement officers at the judiciary. I will point out, however, that his dancing skills at the end of the video were, in my opinion, awkward, although I understand that he's quite a good singer. From my experiences with Jonathan over the years, I am of strong opinion that he will continue to be an excellent magistrate judge and champion contributor to the never-ending pursuit of justice for all. I strongly recommend Jonathan R. Quan to be a magistrate judge for the Superior Court of Guam. Sincerely, Christina L. Baird. I just wanted to add, just in addition, for me personally, I've known Jonathan for over 20 years. And in that time, he was at private practice. He actually assisted my parents in some legal matters, and my mom, who is Okinawan, so English is her second language, she really she really liked the way he was very patient and kind when he was trying to help her understand legal jargon. That was very difficult for her. But on a different note, I have seen him at work. As I mentioned earlier, I was a teacher, or I am a teacher, and I would take my students to either the district court or the judiciary of Guam. And one of the times, he was actually the judge that was presenting that day. And normally, they do a wonderful job at both courts in being informative with the students, and but for the most part, they would make speeches, answer questions, things like that, and it's great. Jonathan, though, after reading this, I remember he went above and beyond. He actually had a presentation, almost like he had a lesson plan ready for them. And he wanted to show how difficult it was to be, an eyewitness. And instead of just telling us, being an eyewitness is, quite difficult, he actually showed a cartoon and had the kids, watch a cartoon. He told them that he was going to be asking them after. So he told them who the suspect was, and one of the girls was so excited. She said, "Oh, I can describe the person." And so she goes up and she described, and I thought it was great because I don't remember half the things she was saying. And I was like, "Oh, that's a great description." Well, later on, when he played it back and reviewed, she was wrong on a couple of key things, right? That was actually the wrong suspect she was describing, but she was very confident, and I thought, oh, that was a great way to demonstrate that. And as a teacher, I totally appreciated the interactive presentation that he had given. So I fully support Jonathan R. Quan being to continue his role as a magistrate judge. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Andrew, you're recognized.
Hafa adai, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Vice Speaker Etta, Senator Gumatautau, and Senator Terlahi. My name is Andrew Kinga. I work with the Guam Criminal Law and Procedure Review Commission. I've submitted detailed written testimony. I don't need to repeat it here for the committee's consideration, but I'll briefly summarize it. I've been a practicing attorney in Guam for nearly 30 years, and I've had the privilege of working with Judge Quan in a number of professional capacities over many years, most recently through the Guam Criminal Law and Procedure Review Commission, where he serves as our chairman. Through that work, I've seen firsthand his leadership in one of the most significant criminal law reform efforts in Guam's history, the comprehensive modernization of Guam's criminal code. Judge Quan's qualifications clearly speak for themselves. He brings nearly 22 years of legal experience as an attorney and 8 years of judicial experience. He served as a prosecutor, military judge advocate, law professor, and judicial officer. He possesses a deep understanding of the law, a strong commitment to due process, and an unwavering dedication to the fair administration of justice. But what stands out most to me is his professionalism, integrity, and work ethic. Jonathan consistently devotes long hours not only to his judicial responsibilities, but also to public service initiatives such as work on a commission, while continuing to fulfill his commitments to his family and military service. Throughout my interactions with him over many years, I have found him to be fair, objective, thoughtful, and respectful. He has a temperament, judgment, and leadership qualities that our judiciary and community need. I say this knowing full well that he tells things like they are and does not sugarcoat the message. The point is that he has a temperament to balance firmness with compassion. At this moment and for this position, it's my opinion that there is no one more qualified than Jonathan to serve as magistrate judge. For these reasons, I respectfully urge the committee and the legislature to confirm his reappointment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Attorney Espadon, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Carl Espaldon. I'm a practicing attorney on Guam, barred in both Hawaii and Guam for the past 30 years. I am testifying in my personal capacity to strongly support the nomination of Jonathan R. Quan to continue as Magistrate Court of the Guam Superior Court, Magistrate Judge of the Guam Superior Court. As background, Jonathan and I were colleagues at the Office of the Attorney General, where at the time I was the Deputy AG for the Solicitor Division and Jonathan was a senior prosecutor. During that time, Jonathan moved to my division, the Solicitor Division, where we worked closely together when he served as legal counsel to the Customs and Quarantine Agency and later as GPD's chief counsel before assuming the bench as magistrate judge. I also consider Jonathan a close friend, and I believe I have come to know him and his personal attributes and qualities that allow me to testify on his behalf, both professionally and personally. 8 years ago, I appeared before this committee in support of Jonathan's initial nomination to serve as magistrate judge. My testimony then, as it remains today, was that Jonathan was uniquely and singularly qualified to serve in this position, given his local upbringing, his educational background, his legal skills and experience, his dedication to public service, and his promise and potential to administer the law fairly and impartially and contribute positively to the improvement of the administration of justice within the court system itself. Fortunately for me, his distinguished service on the bench since then has affirmed that my previous testimony was accurate, well-placed, and well-grounded. And the legislature has made the correct decision 8 years ago to confirm him as magistrate judge and would do a great service to the courts, the legal community, and to the people of Guam to confirm him once again to this position. While others may testify about specific aspects of Judge Quan's experience and performance on the bench, I would like to touch upon some of the intangible qualities and traits that Jonathan possesses and makes him an exemplary judge and, in my opinion, a quality human being. The first is his work ethic. When it comes to work, Jonathan is and always has been relentless. He takes whatever job in front of him seriously and doesn't keep regular hours like the rest of us. When he and I worked together at the AG's office, I only had one attorney in my division that would regularly call me at home after hours, sometimes close to midnight, to discuss work, and I'll let you guess who that was. Even today, I know he regularly takes his work mind home and often is up late grappling with issues and cases and situations before him. And anyone familiar with the magistrate judge's docket knows that it too is relentless in the continuous quantity of cases that must be scheduled and heard within a short period of time, where hearings often go late and are also scheduled during the weekends and holidays. Judge Quan and his chamber staff do a Herculean job getting through their docket in both a workmanlike and uncomplaining manner. Finally, as magistrate judge, Judge Quan reads and reviews every case file on his docket, and he reads them carefully, with attention to detail, oftentimes to the chagrin of the lawyers involved. To me, this work ethic doesn't just mean that he works hard for hard work's sake. It means that he cares. He cares about the quality of his work because he understands how important it means to the litigants in the cases. Another quality I admire in Jonathan is that he has a strong moral compass instilled in him by his parents, Mrs. Veronica Quan and the late Senator John Quan, who taught him about hard work, honor, duty, service, and commitment to excellence. In his personal life, Jonathan has always been disciplined and honorable in both his lifestyle and his personal conduct. He is honest to a fault, and is someone whose integrity, in my opinion, is beyond question and reproach. On the bench, he holds fairness to the litigants and fealty to the law as his guide stars, understanding and appreciating that the two are not mutually exclusive, but are part and parcel of each other. He does his best to navigate the difficult yet fine line in the justice system, where victims deserve justice and the accused require fairness. And he takes this responsibility seriously. Finally, Judge Quan is not hesitant to hold parties accountable for their behavior and choices, and attorneys appearing before him accountable for the quality of their work on behalf of their clients. The record and press reports over the past 8 years are replete with examples where he has called out both sides, and sometimes gently and sometimes not so gently, reminded them that the law demands that they do better. Finally, while I paint a picture of a hard-working, fair, experienced, and tough-minded judge, there is an underlying compassion and humanity to Jonathan that he himself might be reluctant to admit openly. While Judge Quan is always true to the law, and as I testified last time, will follow where the law takes him and not the other way around, I believe his innate compassion and humanity informs him and his decisions as a judge. Outside of the courtroom, he thinks about and cares about the human condition and the circumstances that contribute to how and why people end up in the judicial system, and in particular in his courtroom. This underlying compassion and humanity that I'm able to see and experience as his friend, far from being considered a chink in the armor of a tough judge, is, in my opinion, the greatest intangible quality that serves a judge well as he makes decisions concerning the lives of others. Judge Quan has this most important of qualities, which, in addition to all the others that my fellow panelists have and will present today on his behalf, makes him uniquely qualified to continue to serve on the bench. As his friend and professional colleague, I am proud of how he has comported himself as a judge these past 8 years and the seriousness and commitment he brings to his work. I urge this committee's approval and the full legislature's confirmation of his nomination as Magistrate Judge of the Superior Court. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Attorney Espaldon. You're David, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you are recognized, sir, please.
Madam Chairwoman, Senators, thank you for this opportunity to provide testimony as to the character and qualifications of Jonathan Quan as to confirmation of his appointment as Magistrate Judge, Superior Court of Guam. My name is David Riaño. I'm a federal civil service attorney with the Guam Army National Guard. I have spent 30 years as the full-time lawyer, both as a military officer and now as a civilian for the Guam National Guard. In my legal capacity with the Guard, I have worked very closely with John, who I also know as Major John Quan, soon to be Lieutenant Colonel John Quan. I've known John since August 2011 when he became a judge advocate in the Guam Army National Guard. I have for 15 years had the opportunity to observe his personal and professional qualities, and I consider him to be an individual of the highest moral and ethical standards. In his career as a judge advocate, John has been a military defense counsel for many years, which has honed his critical thinking skills and very likely made him a better magistrate. His hallmark traits as a defense counsel were thorough case preparation and attention to detail, two qualities which are critically important when making judicial decisions. I have found John to always be articulate, considerate of others, well-versed in applicable law, and extremely personable. These qualities are those desired in an individual in a judicial position. John genuinely cared about his clients, which reveals a lot about his character. For the past 6 months, John has been a deputy staff judge advocate for the Guam Army National Guard. John will soon be the staff judge advocate upon the retirement of Lieutenant Colonel Vern Perez, who's with Superior Court right now. In this capacity, John has been responsible for the myriad federal and state laws affecting the command. John has been aggressive in protecting command resources and integrity and ensuring compliance with state and federal laws. His thorough legal representation of the command embodies the skills he brings to the magistrate's position. My belief, finally, is that John's military background, legal background, has made him a better lawyer and a better magistrate. Those tools that he brings to the magistrate position that he has garnered from military service are important in my opinion. He is a wiser and better magistrate by virtue of his military service. This is the message I would like to emphasize to the committee. Such a unique experience brings a perspective which enhances his ability to continue serving as a magistrate for the island of Guam. Thank you for this opportunity to testify.
You're very welcome, sir. Thank you so much. Attorney Panglian, you are now recognized.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Honorable Senator Taitague, Madam Vice Chair, Senator Terlahi, Honorable Vice Speaker Tony Atta, and Senator Sean Gumatautau. Good afternoon. My name is Mike Pangilinan, and I'm honored to testify this afternoon in strong support of the reappointment of Magistrate Judge Jonathan R. Quan. I've been an attorney on Guam in private practice for 30 years, but more importantly, for purposes of this hearing, I'm Magistrate Judge Quan's cousin. I'm his former law school classmate, and he's one of my best friends, and he's my daughter's Nino. 8 years ago, when Magistrate Judge Quan received his first appointment to this position on the day of his confirmation hearing, I was unfortunately in California, and I was there for my mother's 80th birthday, and I was unable to be present at the confirmation hearing to provide testimony on John's behalf. I've always regretted not being here for that, and I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to support John here this afternoon. Madam Chair, it's the most natural thing in the world for me to provide testimony in support of Magistrate Judge Quan's reappointment, because John has been a magistrate judge for the past 8 years, but he's been like a magistrate to me for most of my life. Whenever I found myself in predicaments, especially when I've had to make rough decisions quickly, John has calmly helped me assess the situation, determine the available options, and move forward. John has an intelligent but practical approach to problem solving and decision making that make him perfectly suited to be a judge. John has always been this way. And I'd like to share one of my favorite memories from our law school days that illustrates this. So back when John and I were in law school together in Loyola in LA, it was a few days before our final exams, and we were under pressure studying our lecture notes and class outlines. It was around midnight, and I was driving home from John's apartment in downtown LA after a long night of studying. I stopped by a convenience store to buy some snacks, and while I was in the store, a thief broke into my car and stole my backpack. And all of my study materials, including all of the books, notes, and outlines from every class, were in my backpack and were gone in an instant. It was one of those moments in your life when your entire life flashes before your eyes. I was panicked, my head was spinning, and I thought of the only thing I could think of, rational thing I could think of to do at that moment. I called John. John's voice on the phone was surprisingly calm. "Stay there," he said. I'm on my way." By the time John arrived, he had already assessed the situation, considered the options, and come up with a plan. He knew that whoever stole my backpack was only interested in the money and not my books or outlines, and that the thief would likely abandon the backpack quickly upon realizing that there was no money in it. So following John's instructions, I spent the next few hours driving around downtown LA with John, looking for my backpack in dumpsters and in trash cans, searching through makeshift cardboard shelters and underneath freeway overpasses. But we never found my backpack, and I actually don't think John ever really thought we would, but he knew that going through the process of searching for it would give me something to focus on and get me back into a productive frame of mind. He also knew that if I was convinced that my backpack was permanently lost, then I would focus my attention on studying for the exams and not be preoccupied with what happened to my backpack. So John's decisiveness that night made a huge difference to me. I ended up borrowing books and outlines from others and studying for my classes and passing all my tests. So John is 2 years younger than me, and he was a year behind me in law school, but he's always acted like my older cousin. He's always the responsible one, making sure his friends and relatives act respectfully and appropriately. He's a stickler for protocol. When he convinced me to come back to Guam during our summer break from law school, I hadn't lived here ever since my family left Guam when I was a baby. Well, as soon as we arrived back here for the summer, I'm talking about we hadn't even gotten back to his place from the airport. He insisted on taking me immediately to visit my Quan relatives. We went from house to house paying our respects to my aunts and uncles. "You have to pay respects to your family as soon as you come back home," John said. Home is what John always calls Guam. But Guam is much more than John's home. Guam is a huge part of who John is as a person. His island and his family are everything to him, and he'll do anything to protect both. There's so much about John's mind, his skills, his personality that make him perfectly suited to be a judge that it's really hard to even scratch the surface and still keep my testimony at an appropriate length. And I just want to let Magistrate Judge Quan know I am going to keep my testimony at an appropriate length. I know he's such a stickler for protocol. I just want to let you make sure you don't worry about that. So let me just tell you 2 more things about John that I think you should know as you consider his reappointment. First, he has no vices or bad habits. He doesn't smoke. He doesn't drink alcohol, so he never goes to bars. For crying out loud, he doesn't even drink coffee. John has never had to make lifestyle adjustments or tone down his social life in any way as a judge because he's always conducted himself like a judge for his entire life. That's just how John is. Second, John is not a show-off. He doesn't want accolades or praise. He downplays his own achievements and talents, and he highlights the achievements and talents of others. Very few people, well, until today, know that John is a great singer, and he plays the ukulele and the piano. Music runs in the Quan family. That's also a big part of who John is. When John brought me back to Guam during our law school summer, we formed a band with one of our other Quan cousins who's here this afternoon, and we played every Thursday night at the Entang and Ren Lounge at the Pacific Star Hotel. But people are always surprised to hear John is a musician because he never talks about it. He tells people, I play the saxophone, and he tells about what great singers and musicians we have in the Quan family, but he doesn't talk about his own talents. John is also a black belt in 4 martial arts, which took many years of training and commitment to achieve. But again, you won't hear about that from John. You'll rarely hear him talk about the fact that he was valedictorian of his graduating class at FD, that he went on to graduate from Penn at an Ivy League university, and that he is now a major in the Army National Guard. The list goes on. John doesn't want to be praised for having achieved these things. He achieves great things in life because he wants to be a competent, well-rounded person, because he has high standards for himself, and because he wants to have a positive impact on the world, and especially on our island. As a magistrate judge, John will continue to do what he's always done throughout his life: get the job done with skill and efficiency, without fanfare, and without drawing unnecessary attention to himself or to the process. That's just who John is. Madam Chair, John's professional record and credentials speak for themselves, and you've heard plenty about that this afternoon, and you will likely hear more about that, about his credentials from others. No one within Guam's legal community is more qualified than John for this position. But let me just end with this. I believe it takes more than strong academic and professional credentials to be an effective judge on Guam. It also takes intelligence, focus, decisiveness, discipline, integrity, compassion, humility, and a deep respect and love for Guam. John has all of these attributes and much, much more. I can say with complete confidence that I know of no one here on Guam or anywhere who is more perfectly suited to be a judge than Magistrate Judge Jonathan R. Quan. So thank you very much, Madam Chair, distinguished committee members, for hearing my testimony.
Thank you so much, Attorney Pangilinan. Mr. Bernes, right?
Bernas.
Bernes, you are now recognized, sir.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and honorable members of this committee. I'm here to read in behalf of Gordon Anderson, an attorney in San Francisco, his testimony. Half a day, Senator Taitague. My name is Gordon Anderson. I am an attorney based in California and a former resident of Guam. I write to you to express my support for Jonathan R. Quan to be reconfirmed as Magistrate Judge of the Superior Court of Guam. Although I still work remotely as an independent contractor for the judiciary of Guam, I submit this testimony solely in my personal capacity. From September 2019 through September 2020, I served as Magistrate Judge Quan's law clerk. Although many lawyers can tell you about Magistrate Judge Quan's work inside the courtroom, I am one of the few people with first-hand knowledge of his work behind closed doors. I'm writing to highlight a few of Magistrate Judge Quan's most notable quantities. First, Magistrate Judge Quan is a rigorous legal thinker. He gives deep consideration to every single paper that crosses his desk. And since magistrate judges have particularly large dockets, that is no small feat. Even so, Judge Quan never cuts corners in his deliberative process. Whether he is reviewing an uncontested divorce or an urgent criminal search warrant, Judge Quan devotes himself completely to every question that comes before him. He does not rush judgment. He thinks through every aspect and consequence before deciding. Second, Judge Quan is a tireless problem solver. When he identifies a gap in existing processes, he applies himself to find solutions. One major example is his work in developing the judiciary's electronic monitoring policy. But he has also spearheaded innumerable, quote-unquote, behind-the-scenes motivations, such as developing new document templates for the law clerks, writing outlines and scripts for certain types of court hearings, and even training some of the judiciary's marshals in martial arts for self-defense. Magistrate Judge Quan has made numerous contributions to the judiciary, even beyond his work on the bench. Third, and most importantly, Judge Quan is an utterly devoted public servant. I think most people would not enjoy being a magistrate judge. The work is rarely glamorous, the pace is always strenuous, and the emotional burden of deciding so many difficult cases each day is heavy. The only type of person who could thrive in such a challenging role is someone with a genuine calling to serve. Fortunately, that describes Magistrate Judge Quan perfectly. His resume could certainly speak for itself on this point. Over the last 2 decades, he has been an Assistant Attorney General, a Judge Advocate General with the National Guard, and now a judicial officer. These are not the sort of jobs one takes for money or prestige. An attorney with his qualifications could surely earn more of both in the private sector. But I sincerely believe that material things do not motivate Judge Quan. Instead, he is motivated by an earnest desire to serve the people of Guam in whatever capacity he can. He proves this every day, both in his words and in his actions. In this sense, I believe he is a genuine role model. I wholeheartedly endorse Magistrate Judge Quan to serve as a magistrate judge. I consider him a mentor, a friend, and an invaluable asset to the judiciary of Guam. Signed, Gordon John Anderson, San Francisco, California, June 9, 2026. If I may, Madam Chair, in my personal note, after listening to 11 testimonies, it just struck me today, a vignette of my friendship with the family. I first met John in 1988. I never had a serious conversation until 1989 when he graduated and his proud mother invited me because he graduated as a valedictorian. I recall a Chinese restaurant in Tamuning. After 30 minutes, he was seated right across me. I was cross-examining him. I was in the private sector. I turned around and told Mrs. Quan, "Your son will be an excellent judge." And she said, "Why?" His strong sense of what is right, just, and a dose of empathy is perfect. But he will be a super excellent if that empathy grows. I'm very proud of how those principles in John have withstood the test of time 37 years later, and we are here today. Thank you.
You're very welcome, sir. Thank you. And next, I'd like to recognize Carlina Choffers. You're now recognized, ma'am.
Hi, Hafaday, Madam Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Carlina Charfers, and I'm here in my personal capacity. Please bear with me. I'm getting over some sort of cough, so excuse me in advance. Thank you for the opportunity to present testimony in strong support of the confirmation of Magistrate Judge Jonathan Quan. I have had the privilege of knowing and working alongside Judge Quan for many years, dating back to 2011 when we both served at the Attorney General's office. He was a prosecutor and I was the public information officer. Early on, it was clear that Jonathan, or as I call him, Quanathan, was not just a dedicated attorney and guardian of the law, but someone who viewed the judicial system as a whole and continually worked to strengthen it. He actively invested in training others, deploying innovative programs like charging committees, where new prosecutors could gain hands-on experience on Guam law and legal theories. These charging committees also doubled as a way to efficiently move cases entering the system. I also recall another instance in which he went out of his way to create a program specifically for police officers to help them better understand the legal system following their portion of the system, the arrest and detain phase. He hosted a series, many series of 2-day professional development sessions where they covered everything from police report writing to the nuts and bolts of evidence gathering. As a prosecutor, Jonathan's commitment to building the legal community was unmatched. Over the last 8 years, we have seen that same spirit of innovation, dedication, and leadership translate to his work on the bench. Rather than relying strictly on punitive measures, Judge Quan innovates to find practical and real-world solutions. As an example, there was a case in which he offered a defendant the opportunity to reduce or eliminate court fines if she took steps to secure a valid driver's license, go through the drug treatment program, and find a full-time job. He also takes his duty of candor and accuracy seriously. A recent news article illustrates this when Judge Quan reminded the AG's office not to jump to conclusions when writing charging documents, but rather base it on available evidence. By doing so, he protected the integrity of the record. Lastly, he continues his work to strengthen the overall judicial system by serving on the committee to revamp the criminal code. It's an ongoing effort that I'm certain, based on my experience in the legal field, will have a positive impact. Jonathan Quanathan has spent his career serving his island as a guardian of the law. His courtroom methods don't just process cases. They actively aim to lower recidivism, fix practical problems that lead to criminal behavior in the first place, and strengthen the judicial process through candor, innovation, and compassion. He possesses the blend of legal acumen, innovative leadership, and grounded compassion that Guam needs in its judicial system. I have the utmost confidence that he will continue to serve our community with the highest level of integrity and fairness. I humbly urge this committee to confirm Magistrate Judge Jonathan Quan. Situas Maasi.
Thank you, Carlina. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask my colleagues if they have any questions for this panel. If not, then I'll excuse them. None? Okay. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm ready to call for the next. This, I believe, is the last panel. I believe Neil had already left from the Attorney General's office. John Morrison, Geraldine Cepeda. Is that Maria Ocampo? Is that right? And Danielle Rossetti. If I missed anyone that signed up to testify orally, I welcome you to the table, yes, and when we get to you, you can just state your name for the record. And if there's no one else, I will go ahead and proceed. And we'll start with you, Danielle. You are now recognized, ma'am, when you're ready.
Hafide and good afternoon, Madam Chair, Senator Terlahi, Senator Gumatauta, and Vice Speaker Atta. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of the reappointment of Magistrate Judge Jonathan Quan. I am Danielle Rossetti, and I am providing my testimony today in my personal capacity, having known Magistrate Quan for a very long time, long before I went to law school, and became an attorney during my time at the law firm managed by now Chief Justice F. Philip Carbolito. Working alongside Attorney Quan at the time, I immediately observed how passionate he was about the law and helping his clients. He would spend countless hours researching and reviewing the law, drafting pleadings and reviewing filed pleadings in each case. He was thorough in his work, and I can say for certain we would have many drafts before it was final. He also took the time to learn from his colleagues and staff in the law firm, including myself, because he always wanted to make sure he zealously advocated for his clients while applying the law and facts to each case. Today and over the last 8 years, I have had the opportunity as the administrator of the courts of the Guam Judiciary to continue to work alongside Magistrate Quan during his term as a magistrate. He has carried the same diligence and commitment to advancing and applying the rule of law as he did when he first started the practice of law. Outside of his magistrate duties, Magistrate Quan is also instrumental in judiciary initiatives, ranging from our strategic plan pillar work to chairing the Guam Criminal Law and Procedure Review Commission. If reappointed, he will continue to follow his magistrate duties under the law and work with the same passion and dedication I first observed many years ago. I urge this committee and I fully support the reappointment of Magistrate Jonathan Quan as a magistrate judge of the Superior Court of Guam. And as you heard from many of the testimonies this afternoon, it is very true that Magistrate Quan is very diligent and very committed to the work that he does. He works very hard. Many times I have to tell him to go home because the court is closed. But when he sets his mind to doing something, he will do what he can to get it done. And we've been very appreciative of his hard work and his efforts and everything that he's brought to the judicial branch in his role as the magistrate. He's also a wonderful husband and a father to his wife, Nicole, who I knew before I knew him, and to the daughter, Alyssa. And so I'm very happy to be here in support of his reappointment, and I ask the committee again to confirm his reappointment. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair, Vice Speaker Ada, and Senator Matao. My name is Jerry Cepeda. I'm your compiler of laws. But I testify today also in my capacity and in my, based on my personal knowledge. Jonathan and I were in high school at the same time. I won't say what year, but my platinum highlights might give that away. So I've known him for a long time, and we have grown up together here in Guam. There's really no need to belabor his professional qualifications, his educational background. So what I'd like to focus on specifically is my recent work with him as the chair of the Guam Criminal Law and Procedure Review Commission that was established by this body in 2022. He has the primary role of overseeing and guiding the commission's formidable task. That's 50 years since the last review of Guam's criminal law and procedure. He has the unique perspective and the firsthand role in our justice system, not only as a former prosecutor and solicitor, but also in the 8 years that he has proven to be a magistrate judge here and doing a fine job. The structure that he created should come as no surprise, considering what you've heard in the past about his organizational abilities. But his appointment of subcommission chairs, his thoughtful perspective in terms of who would sit on certain subcommissions, and he also meets regularly with the staff and the chairs, presides over our quarterly meetings. He oversees the progress of the volunteer commission members, who include active and retired judges, attorneys in government and private practice, and members of the public. In all aspects of his professional life, he has always exhibited the highest level of ethical and moral conduct. His decisions are in accordance with the law, even if the outcome may be unpopular and may result in criticism, because his goal is to preserve the fairness, impartiality, and honor of the justice system in Guam. In my longtime friendship with Judge Quan, I've seen him face challenges directly, overcoming them with intellect, strategy, and often with sheer grit. I have also seen his kindness, his consideration, and his honesty. He lives by a strict moral code that guarantees he will always give his best effort and work toward what is right and ethical. What I'd like to close with is something that Attorney Pangilinan mentioned, is that Judge Quan is dedicated to Guam. He could have practiced in the States. He could have shared his expertise outside of Guam, but Guam is his home. Guam is where he makes his life. Guam is what he wants to improve. And personally, I believe this is what we want in our judicial officers, somebody dedicated to ensuring the future of Guam and ensuring and preserving our justice system. So I support the nomination of Judge Quan to serve as Magistrate Judge of the Superior Court. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cepeda. Next, it's Maya, right? Okay, you're now recognized, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Hafaday Chairperson Telo Taitague, Vice Chairperson Therese Terlahi, and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Maya Perez Ocampo, and I've worked over 30 years with the Department of Education, most specifically with special education, as a psychological educational evaluator. Now, I don't want to give away our age too much, but I have known, as I affectionately call Quan, for over 40 years. My family, Eduardo and Clementina Perez, have known the Quan family, we can go all the way back. And our family ties are very strong, and we know the Quan family, their caliber of character. But also, I must say, my husband and I have been very blessed to call Quan and his family. We get to pick them as our family of our own. So, without a doubt, I definitely support his confirmation as magistrate judge. But I was asked here today to read into the record a written testimony from Captain Grant Olan from the Guam National Guard, who strongly supports Jonathan's confirmation, but was unable to attend the hearing today. So this is the testimony of Captain Olan. Dear Senator Taitague, I am writing to offer my strongest support for the reappointment of Jonathan Quan to another term as a magistrate judge for the Guam Superior Court. His unwavering integrity and steadfast devotion to the law are qualities I have personally and professionally witnessed, and they are qualities that Guam needs on the bench. While serving as a criminal prosecutor in the Guam Attorney General's office, I frequently appeared before the magistrate judge, Quan, until joining Guam Army National Guard. In every proceeding, he demonstrated an absolute commitment to impartial justice and a profound respect for the rule of law. He treats everyone who appears before him with dignity and respect, particularly the criminal defendants, who he unfailingly presumes innocent until proven guilty. Magistrate Judge Quan's meticulous nature is especially evident in how he handles his judicial responsibilities. For instance, he serves as the first gatekeeper in the criminal justice process, where he must determine if probable cause exists to support the charges filed. He approaches this fundamental duty with the utmost seriousness and scrupulous consideration, ensuring that the rights of the accused are protected from the outset. Furthermore, his diligence extends to the imposition of pretrial release conditions. Where some might simply check the boxes on a form, Magistrate Judge Quan takes the necessary time to explain each condition to the defendants. This ensures that they fully understand their obligations and the consequences of noncompliance, a practice that not only protects the community, but also shows profound respect for the defendants. I also had the distinct privilege of serving under Major Quan in the Guam Army National Guard, where I came to know him on a personal level. He brings the same devotion and commitment to his military service as he does to the bench. As judge advocate, he perfectly embodies the 4 pillars of the practice: principled counsel, mastery of the law, stewardship, and servant leadership. Whether mentoring junior officers like myself, advising and assisting soldier clients, or supporting critical missions, his leadership is exemplary. Without a doubt, Major Quan was the most impactful supervisor and mentor of my career. He invested in my success by taking the time to get to know me as a person, patiently answering my questions, and offering unwavering support. His guidance was instrumental in my own decision to join the JAG Corps for the regular U.S. Army in 2025. It is for these reasons that I give Jonathan Quan my highest recommendation. The role of a magistrate judge carries an awesome responsibility, and I can think of no one better suited to exercise that responsibility with wisdom, fairness, and integrity. Very sincerely and respectfully, Grant Olan, Captain, Judge Advocate in the United States Army. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. Do we have a copy of that testimony? Yes. Can we get one? Okay,
sure.
Because I don't think we have one. I've read most of the testimonies and I didn't see that one. But thank you so much for reading it into the record, and we'll be ensured to include it in the record as well. Attorney Morrison, you are recognized, sir.
Happy day, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is John Morrison. I'm the Deputy Director of the Public Defender Service Corporation and the Managing Attorney of our main office. I'm the Vice President of the Guam Bar Association. I'd like to offer this testimony on behalf of my office today. I'm here to offer my strong support for Magistrate Quan and his reappointment. I think he's been a tremendous asset to the judiciary. I want to highlight a few of the interactions that we've had that I think illustrate some of his tireless hard work and performance in emergencies. During the pandemic, there was a need for the stakeholders to really come together and work out processes that were going to allow us to continue to have hearings, first appearances, bail arguments under very challenging circumstances. There were a lot of courtrooms and judicial officers that's workload sort of dropped off because we couldn't have in-person hearings, we couldn't have trials, we couldn't have evidentiary hearings with live witnesses for safety reasons and other reasons. But Magistrate Quan's workload actually dramatically increased because he was the point person, the first person that a criminal defendant would see to determine if there was probable cause to hold them, to determine if there should be an adjustment to their bail conditions. So when we were having all those initial meetings, there were many people involved. Many other judicial officers, I'm sure, weighed in. Many other ministerial officers of the court, I'm sure, contributed. But Magistrate Quan was always the point person. He was always the person, that I recall seeing the most on the Zoom screen working out and perfecting this system that I think has really worked well and has resulted in a process that we still use today. Defendants still appear via Zoom today, and a lot of that had to do with how Magistrate Quan worked through that system and worked its kinks out. That was one emergency. Another one that I recall was after Typhoon Mawar hit. There was a backlog of cases because we couldn't hold hearings because, well, there wasn't any electricity on the island. So after about a week and a half, we finally got word that we could have hearings in person, that the people that had been held were going to have their first appearance hearing. And I wasn't surprised at all when our executive director and myself made it to court and saw Magistrate Quan was going to be the one directing these hearings. So we worked through a full day's worth of these types of hearings professionally and efficiently. I am a practicing attorney. I can tell you that I have known Magistrate Quan for 18 years now. First as an adversary, he was a prosecutor at the Attorney General's office when I first met him, and I was an Emma defense attorney. So we interacted on many cases. He was always an absolute professional, someone who could disagree with you without being disagreeable. As a judge, I have appeared in front of him hundreds of times. I don't want to exaggerate. I don't think I am on thousands of hearings over the last 8 years. And I can tell you that he conducts himself as a professional at all times, as some of the other testimony has provided.
there are times that he doesn't give me what I'm asking for. This happens quite frequently. I'm not particularly open to the possibility that I was wrong about any of these requests. However, I can tell you that each of the times that this has happened, the parties walk away from Magistrate Quan's hearings knowing why he issued the ruling that he did. He is deliberate and thoughtful, and even when you don't get what you ask for, you know specifically why. And I think that is a real benefit to the clients and parties that appear in front of him. As well, I think if we brought a member of the community into his courtroom and had them listen to him explain the rulings that he's making, they too would agree that his rulings are appropriate and well thought. I am a voting member of the Guam Criminal Law and Procedure Revision Subcommittee or Committee. Magistrate Quan is the chair of that. He conducts those meetings with efficiency and care of everyone's schedule, and I would tell you that we have gotten through a tremendous amount of work in a fairly short amount of time from his guidance and efficiency. Those are my comments. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Attorney Morrison. Domingo? Great. You are now recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair Taitague, Madam Vice Chair Terlahi, Vice Speaker Ada, and Senator Gumatauta. Thank you for giving me the opportunity and privilege to speak to you today. My name is Domingo Campo, and I stand before you with great respect and conviction to express our wholehearted support for the confirmation of Jonathan Regino Quan to continue serving the people of Guam as a magistrate judge. I have known Jonathan for nearly 40 years. Our friendship began when we were classmates at Father Duenas Memorial School, and over the decades, I've had the honor of witnessing the person he has become, a person guided by integrity, compassion, humility, and unwavering commitment to serve others. For those who may not know Jonathan beyond his professional accomplishments, I would like to share a glimpse of the man behind the title. Jonathan is the true son of our island, deeply connected to the community he serves. He was raised by the late Senator John F. Quan and Veronica Quan, a respected former research and appeals administrator with Guam Revenue and Taxation. He continues to share a close bond with his aunt, Leah Santos, former executive director of the Guam Commission for Educator Certification. His wife, Nicole Ballista Quan, serves as the Contracts and Small Claims Administrator at Guam Waterworks Authority. The Quan family name represents a legacy of dedication, leadership, and public service to the people of Guam. For more than 20 years, Jonathan has dedicated himself to the pursuit of justice and the betterment of our community. He served as Assistant Attorney General of Guam, his role as a former assistant professor at the Guam Community College's Criminal Justice Academy, and his continued service as a major in the Judge Advocate General's Corps for the Guam Army National Guard demonstrate not only his legal expertise, but his commitment to protecting and serving others. However, what truly defines Jonathan is not his resume, it's in his character. Behind the professional titles is a devoted husband, father, and community member. He makes his family a priority and is actively involved in his daughter's life. His leadership extends beyond the courtroom and into our schools and community through his service as a current parent-teacher organization president at Bishop Baumgartner Memorial School. I've also had the privilege of seeing Jonathan interact with those around him. He leads with respect, builds meaningful relationships, and earns the trust of the people he works alongside. His commitment to physical training with the members of the Judiciary Guam Marshal Services reflects his dedication to teamwork, discipline, and maintaining the readiness required for his continued service with the Guam Army National Guard. But perhaps the greatest testament to Jonathan's character comes from knowing him as a friend. Jonathan is not simply someone I have known for 40 years. He is family. He has stood beside me and my family through moments of joy and moments of hardship. When people needed someone dependable, compassionate, and genuine, Jonathan was there. He is a man of integrity, loyalty, patience and kindness. A judge's role requires more than knowledge of the law. It requires wisdom, fairness, empathy, and the trust of the community. I believe Jonathan embodies these qualities. He understands the responsibility that comes with serving others, and he has spent his life preparing for this moment. There is no doubt in my mind that Jonathan Quan is the right person to serve the people of Guam as a magistrate judge. I respectfully and wholeheartedly ask your support for his confirmation. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and allowing me to share my support today.
Thank you, Domingo. And at this time, I'd like to recognize Sophia Diaz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Senator Chalahi, Vice Speaker Ada, and Senator Gumatautau. My name is Sophia Sanchez Diaz, and I hadn't anticipated submitting testimony today, but as I was sitting here, I wanted to share just a few points related to Magistrate Quan. I am employed by the Judiciary of Guam, but I'm speaking in my personal capacity today. You've heard much about Magistrate Quan's work on the bench and in private practice, but I'm here to speak particularly about his ability to mentor. I am a captain in the Guam Army National Guard and have since 2016 been assigned as a judge advocate to the Trial Defense Service, where Major Quan has been my senior counsel and supervisor until his reassignment about 6 months ago. I was not a young soldier in 2016. I was a new soldier, but not young. And then Captain Quan guided me and offered me professional counsel. And like me, he joined later on in life. I know that there's been a little bit of talk about Major Quan's age, but without revealing too much, I will just say that he and I both joined in the years when most other soldiers are retiring. You know, he was very realistic with me about the difficulty of joining later on, how the physical demands can be a little bit taxing on older bodies. And he was supportive and offered me professional guidance at every step of the way. Assignment to the Trial Defense Service can be a very lonely assignment. Often the soldiers who come to see us are at the lowest points of their careers. They are very often ostracized and very often without hope. And I will speak honestly that after a drill weekend, you can be pretty exhausted. But Major Quan has, at every opportunity, whenever I needed just a pep talk about the work that we've done over the 48-hour drill period, even after it was incredibly exhausting, never hesitated to offer guidance and counsel. And he has always been patient with every soldier that I've seen him interact with, which I think is a trait and a quality that has served him well on the bench. Patience with defendants who are very often confused about what is happening before them has been a trait that served him very well. And as you've heard from everybody who has testified over the course of this afternoon, he is very dedicated to the work. He is dedicated to public service, he is dedicated to Guam, and he is dedicated to the work that he does at the judiciary. Respectfully, I'd ask that you confirm Magistrate Quan to a new 4-year term. He is a true brother in arms, and I have appreciated his friendship and his mentorship over the past, gosh, I've been in the Guard now for 10 years. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. And I think I'm the last speaker before the star of the show gets an opportunity to come up here. And so thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming to testify. For everyone here testifying today, I'd like to ask my colleagues at this time if they have any questions for you. I think.
Did any of them pass up this? Did any of you attach statistics to your testimony? There's some loose statistics? No? No? All right, thank you.
Okay, at this time, you are now excused. Thank you so much for coming testifying. Of course, for everybody testifying. And at this time, like Sophia said, the man of the hour is up next for his testimony. Okay, at this time, I'd like to recognize, as I mentioned, the man of the hour, Judge Quan. You are now recognized.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the committee, senators. I want to thank you all and the staff of the Guam legislature for their hard work and your hard work in making this day happen. To all those that have provided testimony and to those that are present here, I want to thank you all. When I appeared before this body 8 years ago, I said I was unaccustomed to kind words being spoken to me, much less about me. That has not changed. Thank you for your support. Good afternoon. I'd like to start by telling you a little bit about me beyond what the resume and the news say. My name is Jonathan Quan. I grew up in Santa Rita, Agate, and spent much of the week in Agana. My grandmother was Manuela Quan, Tenlela, and my grandfather was Regino Concepcion Quan, Uncle Ding. Grandma owned and ran a little flower shop and bridal gown shop right here in Agana called Quan's Apparel Store. Grandpa was retired from Navy PWC, and when I came around, he was helping Grandma with a store and tending to the large pig farm he owned in Santa Rita. As a side note, we had about 100 pigs at any given time. It was very clear to me at that young age, I did not like being a pig farmer. There was never any free time when I was around my grandparents. When I was younger, I was constantly getting my ear desced by Grandpa because I'd walk by things that fell down on the ground, things that needed to be adjusted, things that were broken. As he would flick my ear, he would scold me and say, "What's wrong with you? Make this place better than you found it." This continued to happen over and over again. That's when my ears look like this. Until I learned the lesson and started doing what he said. He passed away saving my cousin Tommy when a speeding driver hit their Toyota truck at the intersection of Adelup as they were coming back from harvesting ferns from my grandmother's flower shop. I was 9 years old. That incident was a factor that led me to the law and internalizing a guiding principle of my life that came from him. Make this place better than you found it. As I stated in the past, I grew up in Santa Rita, Agate. I attended Cathedral Grade School, St. Anthony, Bishop Baumgartner, Father Duenas Memorial School. I attended the University of Pennsylvania for my double major, and then Loyola Law School in Los Angeles. I was a Merit Scholar in college and a Pro-Tech recipient in law school. The citizen of Guam helped pay for my education, and I am ever mindful that I owe them a debt of service. The base of who I am today was laid down by my parents, John Frank Quan and Veronica Santos Quan. My father worked for the government of Guam and was a captain in the Army Reserve. My mother worked for the Department of Revenue Taxation until she retired. After my father passed away while I was in high school, much of my worldview was shaped by my aunt, Leia Santos, who gave up her life in the Philippines and came to Guam to help my mother raise my brother and myself. I will not bore you with the multifaceted and long work history that is in the resume packets that you have and will receive 9 years at the AG's office, 9 years in private practice, 5 years Guam Community College, 2 years legal counsel, Guam Police Department, 15 years as a judge advocate. What it does not recount is how I repaired, repainted, retiled houses during the summer to make money for college and during college, or the jobs I took changing toilets, bathroom fixtures, and kitchen faucets. It's very hard to fit under the sinks. Or the part-time work I used to repair cracked front windshields for a company called Glass Masters. Didn't like that much either. I have been blessed with varied work experience that has provided me with perspective and experience that I have often drawn upon to do the work I am doing today. One of the highlights for sure of my career has been the last 8 years, which have been incredibly stressful, demanding, and more importantly, rewarding. Rewarding because as a magistrate judge, I can help the community that I grew up in and that my children will grow up in. And I can do my part to make this place better than when I found it. This job is extremely demanding, not just in time and effort, but also due to the weight of the decisions that you must make on a daily basis. Unlike the Superior Court of Guam judges that have time to weigh their decisions, the magistrate judge's life is subject to the twin taskmasters of time and volume. There have been many occasions where my team and I get off the bench at 8 o'clock at night after a day filled with 70+ cases and matters. Then I restart work at 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. to do the actual paperwork required for that day's hearings. We are also the only judicial officers that hold court every weekend of the month to bring before us those defendants that are arrested on Friday nights. Magistrate judges are the keepers of the judiciary's criminal justice system. We decide if there is sufficient probable cause for the case to go forward and whether a defendant is committed or released. For the defendant, the magistrate judges set the tone that the case will follow. We handle approximately 1,500 magistrate cases a year. We handle the bulk of the pro se litigant cases where parties represent themselves. MCC, small claims, uniform complaints, name changes, marriages, restitutions. By my count, approximately 15,000 cases are divided between the two magistrates. It has been a privilege to serve these last 8 years, and I want to thank Chief Justice Merriman and the Guam Legislature for affording me that privilege. If you deem me worthy, I ask that you allow me the opportunity and the privilege to continue to serve, so that I may do my best to make things better than when I found it. Whatever you decide, I want to take this opportunity to thank the judiciary of Guam, its employees especially, for their hard work, diligence, and dedicated service, especially due to my long nights. I know I'm taking you away from your families, and I'm sorry about that, but I thank you anyway. Although the Judicial Council of the Judges may steer, you are the engine that powers us forward. On a more personal note, I want to thank all that have served as part of my chamber team over the years. Christine Chargaloff, Darryl Garcia, Sheila Sablon, Natividad Pareda, Curtis Aurelio, J. Thomas St. Nicholas, Richard Valerio, Renita Lindau, Kristen Rages, Lexi Tenorio, Maeve Santos, Dodd Siegfried Mortera Jr., Franklin Tenorio, Napu Paredo, and Alan Eckley Jr. Thank you for the years of effort and laughter. Without you all, the wheels would have fallen off this bus a long time ago. About 25 years ago, I came across my father's 1976 master's degree thesis while he was attending Marquette University, entitled The Compagdrazgo System of Guam, In the acknowledgments, it had what struck me as the oddest line at the end. It read, "To my son Jonathan, I extend my apologies for the time it took away from him. I was 5 years old when he wrote this. At the time I read it, 25 years ago, I did not have children, so I dismissed this as mere pleasantries. I get it now. So I say now to my daughter Alyssa, I too extend my apologies for the time this important work has taken away from you. I am sorry for the moments of your childhood that we can never get back. Never think this work is more important than you. Always remember, it is for you, in the hopes of making this island and this world a little bit better, that I do this. It is my sincerest hope that decades from now, when you come across this recording, you will understand as well. To my mother, thank you for providing me the base, the love and empathy, and the foundation of which this was all built. And to my wife, Nicole, I want to thank you for saying yes, absolutely not knowing what you were getting into at the start of this journey. With that, honorable senators, I will try to answer any questions you may have of me. Please be mindful, as a sitting magistrate judge, I am subject to the confines and rules of the Judicial Code of Conduct, so I may not comment on any current cases that are before the court, and I may not opine on anything that may come going forward. I have nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Quan, and I'm sure everyone is still, if you need Kleenex for that last part, you know. See everyone, I don't think you have a dry eye in this audience right now with that comment. And to show your beautiful daughter who's here and your wife, it's very admirable that you recognize the most important people in your life and how they ground you. So I know some great things. I know my good friend of mine knows your wife, and she says such good things about you. So I just wanted to recognize you and thank you so much for allowing him to do what he does. It's not easy, so, but thank you so much. Judge Quan, thank you too as well, again, for your willingness to continue to serve. The judiciary plays a very critical role in maintaining public trust in our system and of justice. And we definitely appreciate your dedication to that responsibility. And as part of the legislature confirmation process, it is important that the public have the opportunity to hear you directly from the appointee. I took off my glasses, I could still, okay. Regarding the standards associated with your judicial office. And accordingly, I would like to ask a few questions for the record. Okay. So Judge Quan, since your initial appointment as magistrate judge in 2018,
yes,
have you been subject to any judicial misconduct complaints, ethics investigation, disciplinary proceedings, sanctions, or formal grievance? And if so, please describe the nature and disposition of that matter.
Not that I'm formally aware of.
Okay. Guam law requires judges to avoid conflicts of interest and to recuse themselves when they're partially might reasonably be questioned. Can you describe your approach to identifying potential conflicts and ensuring public confidence in the fairness and impartiality of your decisions?
Yeah, there's clear rules in the code and the court rules that indicate what a conflict is. So those are laid out. Obviously, there's some that are absolute conflicts that you can't even hear. There's others that are discretionary where you may choose to recuse yourself. And there's others where you may notify the party saying, we may know each other, but I don't feel that it's sufficient to disqualify myself. That's part of the problem in terms of the volume issue. So a lot of the time, of the magistrate judges is you're flipping through before the hearings to make sure you don't know the names, right? I mean, you're making sure that you don't recognize any of the names. Problem is, a lot of people have the same names here. Joe Cruz, Jose Blas, and I said Nicholas. There, a lot of names. So you make clear it initially saying, okay, I don't know this person. But then you see the person in court, you're like, okay, wait, I got to stop. So there is a process where you first go through it by the files, and then after that, you're then going through by sight at the actual hearings. If you find a conflict or potential, you have to determine whether it's in one of the three categories. And then if it's an automatic disqualification, there is a form you must fill out, and then the case gets transferred to someone else. But there is a pre-screening process. There is a process that occurs during the hearing. And then sometimes after the fact, when a party says, wait a second, there's a connection. But that's the general process that we follow.
Thank you for that. And for the record, is there any matter relating to your professional conduct, character, integrity, or ability to perform the duties of magistrate judge that has not previously been disclosed to this committee and that could reasonably bear upon your fitness for reappointment?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, and I greatly appreciate, because we did have quite a bit of questions and requirements on your packet for your nomination, that we went further, I think beyond what was required by law, and I greatly appreciate you providing the information to my office. This is a very, very important position, and it's a matter of people's lives being, routed in a different direction, and also a matter of people's lives being changed hopefully for the better. We know that the Attorney General did come up and testify in your favor, but I do have to ask, there was a part in there where he talked about the release and then reoffend, catch and release and then reoffend. How many, and it was in the month of May, how many in the month of May of 2026 cases are you aware of that you've heard so far? Just for 1 month, maybe the average, I guess.
Criminal cases? I'm assuming criminal cases, correct?
Right.
All right. Let's start with this. I don't have the information as to breakdown per month, but I did try to prepare for this, and the court provided me some data. If you would provide attachment Exhibit A, please. I have it. Okay, so if you look at attachment A, which is this document here, it has held and released. This shows from 2020 to 2026 the total number of magistrate cases and total number of held versus released, broken down by each magistrate judge. So you might want to take a second and take a look at that.
This was provided earlier to us.
Right, so
you can proceed.
It's not broken down by month, it's broken down by year.
We can take an average on that. The reason why I bring this up is because it's showing that your catch and release and reoffend record was showing 38 for the month of May itself. Can you speak on that?
I do not know what or how the Attorney General looks at their numbers or how they get it. All I can tell you is that what is reoffend? The definitions for reoffend. What is the definitions for? Is it just a technical violation? Is it just a new criminal case? I would draw your attention to Exhibit D. Exhibit D.
Judge Quan, can you just move the mic a little bit closer to you so we can hear you? Yeah, there.
I would draw your attention to Exhibit D.
Okay.
This statistics was compiled by the court that shows the pretrial performance snapshot. And as you can see, 71.4%, this is as of June 2025. People are released on pretrial, 28.6 are detained. Okay. Now turn the page, new crime rate. Of that number, 92.1% are not charged with a new crime. 7.9% are charged with a new crime. If you look below that, you'll see the statistic of 97.7% are not charged with a new violent crime, and 2.3% are charged with a new violent crime. Now, I draw your attention to Exhibit E, the code. Now, we as a magistrate judge, I am bound to follow the law. You as the legislature are the voice of the people as their elected representative. This is Exhibit D. You as the people are as the senators are the elected representative of the people. You are the voice of the people. And what you pass as law, we follow. So if you look at Exhibit D, which is Title 8 GCA Chapter 40, your language is clear. 4010 and 4015.
Sorry about that. We don't have the exhibit numbers in front of us. We have the just the documents that you put together for us to understand. Yeah, it's right here.
I make every effort to comply with your and the laws as you pass them.
Thank
and
you
even
so
then,
much.
even then, I'm looking at, you're still looking at a 53% confinement rate in 2023, 60% confinement rate in 2024, 58% confinement rate in 2025, and 57% confinement rate in 2026. Yeah. If you turn the page on this document, turn the page, if you would please, to this. Currently, the total number of detainees at the Department of Corrections, that is all, not just criminal, but warrants and whatnot, is 548. I'm responsible for the confinement of 331, which is 60%. You can look at the other judges to determine and compare.
Thank you, Judge Quan. And the reason why I brought this up, and it's for the record, you know, we have been in discussion about changing this legislation or this law in the Guam Code Annotated to give more of a decision-making upon the judges themselves on whether to detain or to release. So I have to ask, you did concur that we did have this conversation. I just want to make it for the record so everybody knows.
To be clear, in that discussion, I stated that I take no part in that determination.
Right,
The decision whether the law needs to be changed is within the sole province of the senators, and we will comply.
Right.
Excuse me for
to whatever
being presumptuous, but we will comply with whatever decision you make.
Absolutely. It was a concern that I had. I brought up to you, and you showed the issue that's in the Guam Code Annotated. And of course, it is up to this body whether to make that choices. But, you know, we always like to concur with the judges as well as the Chief Justice on any legislation that's going to change at the judicial branch when it comes to law and sentencing. We like to allow the judges more discretion because they know the case more so than we would or anybody would know. But I greatly appreciate you bringing this data and information. I hope my colleagues maintain this and keep this and know that I plan on introducing legislation that would address some of these concerns that the Attorney General has, as well as the public. But this in no way is a reflection of your ability and your job, what you're doing. I just greatly appreciate all the extra work. I think somebody mentioned about you providing data and information to assist them. I mean, you go beyond what's required of you. and I greatly appreciate that, what you're doing. And at this time, Judge Quan, I'd like to now turn it over to my colleagues and my Vice Chair of Justice to ask a few questions for you. Senator Chalahi, you are now recognized.
Thank you. First of all, may I say thank you to all of you who testified. That was really a wide scope of testimony, technical, professional, personal, and a long time knowing Judge Quan. So I'm very grateful for all that knowledge. Thank you to his family for being here, for allowing him to serve in this position. I agree with you that it's time, right? I mean, there's time involved that it's a real dedication. So thank you very much for that. I have no questions for you on your qualifications or anything like that. I was surprised when they were talking about you being black belt in 4 martial arts, because I don't remember if in our first confirmation hearing that we talked about that. I don't think so. And I'm wondering, how did our background check not bring that up? But that was my honor to do that confirmation hearing for you. And but I will talk about this, the statistics that you brought up, because, yeah, there's so many people say every day, I don't agree with them, but they say that there's a revolving door at the court, right, they say sometimes for violent offenders. And of course, when you were first confirmed, that was a huge concern, because there actually were violent offenders who were released and committed violent crimes. So I'm glad that you provided these statistics. So this is what I'm gathering from these different statistics, yours and the AG's, that the statute says, at first appearance before a judge of the Superior Court, every person charged with an offense shall be ordered released pending trial in the manner and subject to the conditions provided in for another statute, 415 and 4020. So shall be ordered released. And then we have statistics here that show that actually Judge Quan has held more than he has released for the past 1, 2, 3, 4 years, right? According to statistics, 57% held, 58%, 60%, 53% held more than he released at it says held at magistrate hearings. Definitely more than any of the other magistrates. And then it says that you are, as you pointed out, responsible for 60% of the detainees currently at the Department of Corrections. 60%. The next number is like 18% and 18%, and yeah, you've got the bulk of almost all of them. And then I don't know, reading this, I just kind of want to ask you, how are you able to detain so many at magistrate if the statute is saying shall be ordered released?
If you look at Section 4015, the legislature has laid out a very clear set of factors one must consider to ensure that if you're not going to release, you must consider the following. So I have attached to that document the checklist that I created, well, not the checklist, but the form that I created that helps me decide to make that decision, right? If you look at the form that's the next page, it tracks the statute very clearly, but there's also factors that I consider outside of this, which is also the defendant's demeanor at the hearing.
Pardon?
The defendant's demeanor at the hearing.
Okay.
So if the defendant may be compliant, respectful, versus upset and angry, that weighs in on the decision. No one factor makes that call, but combined, you make the call based on everything in front of you, right? The defendant's demeanor. If the defendant knows where they're going to stay, if they don't know their address, they don't know a telephone number, that weighs on whether we're going to see them again, right? Based on the statute the section that requires whether we believe they're going to come back or not. So there are a bunch of factors that go into that decision. At the instruction of the presiding judge, this form that I created is now being filed at every magistrate hearing. So you can see why that decision is made.
All right. And this would, this checklist, based on the statute, allows you to commit pending posting of cash bail.
That's correct.
Is that always the case, that you put a condition of cash bail?
That's at the magistrate hearing, but the defendants have a right under the law within 24 hours to file a bail modification motion. So although I may be confining it at rates, I'm hearing the most, obviously, bail modifications per week. So on average, I hear about 8 to 10 per week. And if they can come up with an address where we can find them, telephone number, that actually weighs in their favor, right? If they've calmed down, if they're more compliant, they're willing to answer the questions, that works in their favor, of course, right? All those factors, as well as whether they can qualify for electronic monitoring. So at the instruction of the Chief Justice a few months ago, she has given us the tools necessary to begin the electronic monitoring assessment process at magistrate hearing. So that's in the works now and it's happening. So initially, the confinement rates are that. But as time goes on, and those additional factors come into play, like they know where they're going to stay. They have a telephone number that we can reach them at. They're more compliant and they will answer questions at the hearing. They're coherent enough to answer the questions. Then I'll determine whether I'll release them at that stage or not.
All right, thank you. And I wanted to ask you then, because thank you for mentioning electronic monitoring. So there was also a statistic submitted regarding electronic monitoring and the number of those currently being monitored. Of the 69 defendants, total number that Magistrate Judge Jonathan Quan placed on electronic monitoring was 37. That's, I think, over half, or maybe, yeah, a little bit over half of those who are currently being monitored. How many violations of electronic monitoring do you see? I mean, is that a common? I noticed one in the AG's report, and I want to know if that's common.
I don't track that, so I don't know that. Perhaps the administrative courts can get that
my question to you is because do you feel confident using that if you know, based on the numbers of violations of the electronic monitoring rules?
So there are technical violations and there are bigger violations. If the defendant is on electronic monitoring, for example, and no particular case, just discussion, and they've been compliant, they're not leaving the zones, everything else, but to test positive for alcohol, right? That's a technical violation, as opposed to leaving the zone. That's a automatic violation. So is your question, how comfortable do I feel that the defendants I put on electronic monitoring will not make any violations, or just?
Well, that our community will be safe using the electronic monitoring.
If we follow the guidelines that have been set out and created, and the judges use their good discretion, I feel very comfortable in the program.
All right. Are you able to make recommendations to changes to the policy that the court has adopted regarding electronic monitoring? I heard you were part of putting that together.
Yes. The Chief Justice and the presiding judge have been very open with all judicial officers as to input as to how we can make it better or problems we're seeing.
All right,
Yes.
thank you. I did review the AG's report. He calls it's a catch, release, and reoffend report, May 1 to May 31, and pretty much lists alleged violations of pretrial release orders. And on this one list, not on every month, but on this 1 month of May, yours is the highest alleged violations, but I reviewed them, and most of them are like, they had drugs, or they had alcohol, or they were under the influence, things like this, or they did not report to their probation officer like they were supposed to. They didn't do those kind of administrative things that they were supposed to. Those are important. And there was actually only one that I guess, or maybe just two. So two things I'm concerned about are just, not just for you, but for some of the others. Some of these are, they're being ordered in after several non-reporting to the probation officers, right? And some of these haven't been released on accusations of aggravated assault and terrorizing, very serious crimes. And I just feel like, are you able, in other words, what I'm trying to say is, it looks like it's repeated not reporting to the probation officer, not on their first not reporting to the probation officer that they're getting ordered to bring in. Is that your experience?
So, first off, I don't know how the AG's office is getting their data.
Yeah,
one.
I understand.
Two, I haven't looked at this. I don't know what, I mean, I trust what you're saying is correct, but I haven't looked at it. And third, I cannot speak for the judiciary. That's the sole province of the Chief Justice and the presiding judge. So I can only speak for what I'm seeing and what I'm doing. My question in response to that to you is, at this point, we are releasing 71.4% of defendants that come before us. Do you believe, and I don't know the answer to this question, do you believe that confinement of more will reduce that? And do you believe that the alleged violations are sufficient to warrant revocation of pretrial release and confinement? That's something you have to decide. Based on the statutory framework we have now and the discretion you give us, these are the calls we're making. But if you choose, as the legislature, to change that,
so you're saying
we will comply.
That this is because it's a matter of discretion whether they get picked up after not reporting to the probation office the first time, that the magistrates can wait for the third time?
We don't know that. We don't get the, I mean, we oftentimes don't get the notice of violations. So we don't know that. If probation feels, the current system right now, as I understand it, if probation feels that there is enough violations, or if the violations is sufficient enough to warrant notifying the judge, then they will do so.
Okay.
But if they don't do that, we wouldn't know.
So that's my question to you. In your experience, you're getting these and issuing warrants of arrest after several incidences of not reporting to the probation officer, even for those who had been accused of very violent felonies. And is that sufficient for you? Are you recommending any changes to that they bring the notices to you of first, some of these cases on their first violations?
So the Chief Justice and the presiding judge have instituted a new rule, I think it was recently, I think a month ago, where all violations on pretrial that probation files are sent to the magistrate judges, the two of us. So that's going to increase our workload, but
yes,
we are now getting the violations as opposed to going to the assigned judge. So we're in the process of trying to address that additional workflow that's happening now. On a related note, it's not surprising that you're going to see the magistrate judges getting the highest number of violations to probation, because we're the ones that set the condition. So we're the gatekeeper, we're the ones that set the condition, so the violation of that is going to be assigned to us, even though that defendant is now sitting with the assigned judge for the past year and a half, 2 years, in front of that judge, any technical violation or serious violation will be noticed to the assigned judge that saw him a year and a half ago or 2 years before.
All right. Okay, just maybe one more time then. Do magistrates, do you have the authority to issue a warrant of arrest
Yes.
if they violate once?
Yes.
Okay. And
if we're notified, of course.
all right. And now you will be notified.
I believe so.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, your record to me is, it's very impressive. And so it really doesn't show what I think the community has been saying, that, you know, you are releasing people and they are recommitting serious offenses. The offenses that I'm seeing that are happening, they're not reporting, or they're, you know, under the influence of alcohol or drugs again. And there's only actually one that was released and committed, looks like a more serious crime, or was accused of that. So in this whole report, but I don't know if I would say the same about all the other cases. So that's what I want to tell you. It's like, yeah, your record looks very good to me. It looks like you are taking very seriously your responsibility to keep our community safe. And so I'm very happy about that. So I want to thank you for that. I know you do due diligence in order to achieve that. And for me, the statistics are showing that as well. And I want to thank you for helping the judiciary as well to improve its processes and to make it consistent with your checklist and your helping with all of those types of matters. And your work on the Law Review Commission, I want to thank all of you who are working on that. That's a great accomplishment. Sidus Masi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Chair Terlahi. At this time, I'd like to recognize our Vice Speaker. Tony Ade, you're next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Your Honor, thank you for being here today for your reconfirmation. This perhaps will be one of the times where you're in front of me and me not in front of you, and I appreciate that. I hope never to appear before you.
Me as well.
And, you know, just perhaps I just have a couple of questions and a couple of comments after that. And, you know, the caseload that you have, I think you mentioned about 1,500 that goes through the courts, correct?
1,500 criminal magistrate hearings,
right?
But approximately 15,000 divided by the two magistrates.
Wow.
Yes.
So what have you done to like implement to kind of like reduce your caseloads or kind of your backlogs, or try to hear your cases expeditiously?
Don't sleep. No, I mean, in all seriousness, I've been cautioned by the administrative courts and the deputy administrative courts that I'm staying too long on the bench.
Yes.
My staff, they look like that because they're not sleeping either. We're getting off the bench at 7 or 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And the CNM staff that has to wait for us gets off the bench, leaves the court at 9 o'clock. So, unfortunately, we're just biting down and gritting through it.
Right.
The Chief Justice has implemented, this new Chief Justice has implemented some relief on the way. I don't know if you want me to say it now. She has authorized the hiring of a referee to assist and take over the small claims docket from us.
I see.
So we can address the increase in bail modifications, increase in all the other cases that are coming. Thank you for that, ma'am. We anticipate that we'll be working in a few months, but we're working, each of us is working 2 weekends a month. With the guard, I'm working 3 weekends a month. But we're getting off very late. And my staff, thank you for staying. I mean, the hours we keep, thank you.
I see. So, and how do you ensure that your rulings promote public trust and confidence in the judiciary?
All I can do is to make sure I look at the files before, I look at and know the law, and try to make the call based on what the law says and what's in front of me. That's the best I can do, and to be as impartial as I can with every case. A lot of times that's difficult, especially when you're going long.
Right.
When you're going late, you've done 70 hearings. I think the most we've had in one day is 110. 110 in one day. So you have to reset. It's a struggle to reset your thought process and be fresh for each case that comes next. That's required. Otherwise, if you walk into the next hearing after getting upset and remain upset, going to the next person, you're doing that next person an injustice. So you have to try to reset as best you can before each case, and then take each case by itself. Yeah, that's how you take each case as it comes.
Yeah. Thank you for that, and I truly appreciate it. And you know, all the panelists that have come before you and testified in your favor, from the Chief Justice to the Justice, the judges, Attorney General, and others, that really meant a lot, and all the accolades and praises. And the entire time I was sitting here looking straight at you and your family, and you sat there humbled and modest. And that truly spoke words of you. And I looked at your daughter when Mr. Ocampo there was talking about how you're still involved in her schooling. And I think that's very important.
He was wrong.
He was wrong.
I'm not the president. Carlo Leon Guerrero is the president. I'm just a board member.
Regardless, that is still an active participant.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important because our children that are that age always need their families with them. Yeah. And for you to take that time to separate between family, work, and everything else that you do have is dividing, and I don't know how you do it. And like they said, you leave the courts late at night, and you know, you called up Attorney Rapadas at midnight, still like Espaldon at midnight, trying to get some advice or whatever it is. But you know, it's really the family that stands behind you, that understands and knows where you're coming from, what you're doing, especially for the people, right? To keep our public safe, to keep our judiciary moving, so that everyone has a fair hearing and fair trial. And I think that's all we can do, is ask the best that you can for the community. And you know, those were the only questions I had. Just on a lighter note, though, you know, your grandmother, I know your grandmother really, really well, because my grandmother used to stay down the street from your grandmother, and every time she would need pearls or material, she would send me to your grandmother's store to buy it. And back in the day, there wasn't cash going back and forth, right? It was, yeah, I'll trade you for this, and that's how things were working back then. And I know good things come out of the Quan family, because still 40 years later, my wife has her wedding dress. And that's very important because, you know, we celebrated our 40th anniversary.
Congratulations.
And, you know, now I'm going to go home and look inside the hope chest and make sure it's still good for her. Hopefully my daughter can use it when she gets married, but I think she has her own. And I just wanted to make, you know, we're here to reconfirm the judge to the court. And I just want everyone to know that, yes, there is a very serious side of being a judge, but there's also the human factor, the life of being a judge. And not just a judge, but a father and a husband. And dividing your time between the three is very crucial, and it's important. And knowing that you have the support of your wife and your daughter speaks volumes for your tenure at the courts. And I wish you continued success in your ability to be there at the court. So thank you, Madam Chair, for this time. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome, Vice Speaker Ada. Thank you. And Senator Gumatauta, you now recognized.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Judge Quan, for being with us today. And a little bit of history for pretty much the family. I was probably a year into my job as the Director of Policy Planning and Community Relations the last time you were here. I helped deliver the packet to make sure it got to this branch of government to ensure that we would have a hearing kind of similar to what we're doing today. And I just want to say that, wow, it hasn't been that long or anything like that. But again, I do appreciate the process. And so for those that are here, I was sitting with all of you 8 years ago, and I do appreciate your continued support. We heard a lot of that today, and I just wanted to ask a couple of questions if I could. As Public Safety Chair, I think for me, one of the biggest, I guess, important things for me, I want to talk about the electronic monitoring policy. I did have the privilege to work with you, former Judge Sokola, in the creation of it then. Can I ask you, on the record, I know that we've seen some numbers this morning or today, but is electronic monitoring working for Guam?
Yes, when they qualify. The problem I'm seeing on a day-to-day basis is that our people do not have stable power. So they can get a prepaid phone. We've relaxed the rules to allow them to use, instead of a landline or a permanent permanent phone line, we allow them to use prepaid phones. So if your prepaid phone runs out of minutes, you're in violation. So prepaid phones are allowed. The problem I'm seeing is that they can't afford power. So GPA has implemented a program called prepaid power. So a family will go in, they'll pay $200, the power will be on, and then once the $200 runs out, the power stops. We can't make the system work if the power is not steady. So defense counsels have come to us and said, let's use generators or solar. Here's the issue. The electronic monitoring system uses 3 systems to track. The first is GPS. The second is cellular. And the third is the beacon. So the charging device that is plugged into the wall that they believe is a charging device is also a beacon and tracking device. So when everything goes out, that still tells us where they are. If there is no power, you lose one of the legs of the stool, and the system collapses. So for those that have power, postpaid power, and a cellular phone, yes, it works. For those that do not have power, we can't do it. It doesn't work.
And so when we think about the actual policy itself, I mean, that's a very limited amount of people that would be...
It's growing.
Okay. Well, then I was going to ask is, are you seeing, or are you encouraging more of either the public defender or the private panel? Are they encouraging their clients to avail of electronic monitoring?
Yes, but their clients and their clients' families cannot afford it. They can't afford the power. So that's why your numbers are steady around 80, because people come off and on, right? The cases resolve, or I revoke them, or they get revoked, but we can't break the barrier because they can't afford the power.
All right, thank you for that. Outside of the fact that I spent probably the start of my day with the jury unit, and then I spent the latter half of my day with you for most of your time when I was there, I can attest to the amount of time that is spent by you in service. And I don't know if I could have sat through the 110 cases in a day, but I do want to talk about something that's an extension of that, is the effort, your effort, chairing the Criminal Law and Procedure Review Commission. I think the community doesn't realize that to update the Title IX or the Criminal Code that has not been updated in 50 years is a very significant public policy shift. How important is the Title IX effort for this community? If you can share with us that today.
So the men and women who are serving on there, most of them doing it for free, understand the significance of it. So a lot of the codes you're looking at, that we're looking at, are outdated in terms of laws that incest are covered by CSE. The theft statutes, the values are back from 1972, right? So what you're seeing now is a case being charged as a third-degree felony when it's the values and the value of the dollar has decreased. So it's not commensurate to what things are worth now. You're also seeing a change in the way the police do things, which is the procedure. You're seeing changes in the way that words are interpreted based on the Supreme Court's rulings. So it has to happen. The problem we're seeing is that, let me explain how the process works, if you will. So the executive director and the compiler of laws and I have put together teams, subcommissions, and we've specifically stacked them with defense counsels and prosecutors, right? We want the fight. So if they can agree, great, that's a recommendation immediately. If they can't agree, and we give them more time, and they still can't agree, the committee generally accepts that as a don't touch it. So we have to let that process go forward. We have to let them have the time to argue that out. And if they ultimately can't agree, that means the law is good. That means we recommend no change. But that's a time-consuming process. Plus, I'd like to add that most people are doing this without compensation. We're using their significant expertise, legal and business, to do this. We have had to, more so the executive director, has had to go out into the community and ask people to serve, not under the authority of the commission itself. We've had to basically christen ad hoc members under our own authority to come and work. And that's, we've got about 12 now that are just ad hoc members who can't vote, but are doing the analysis. So it's not that simple. It's taking quite a bit of work and quite a bit of time. And these people are volunteering. So I can't be more aggressive with volunteers.
So let me just reiterate, or let me just rephrase my question. So the Title IX, the criminal statute, is, how important is it in 2026 for this branch of government to update that particular
Absolutely
statute?
essential. Absolutely essential.
Okay, thank you for that. I just wanted to ask that because what you do is actually super critical as a magistrate judge to, at some point, once this thing gets through our branch at some point and we modernize, you're going to be in the front line of that in administering what would be a modern code. And for that, I just want to tell you, thank you for your continued service to the people of Guam, and I do plan on voting in the affirmative for your confirmation. So thank you, Judge, for being here today. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gumatao. You know, at this time, and I know it's been long, but you've been kind enough to provide some refreshments outside. So after you're done, please help yourself, stick around, and you can probably already congratulate Judge Quan on his appointment to be confirmed.
Not till it's over.
Most likely.
Don't say anything till it's over, no.
So, but before we conclude, I also like to thank you again and extend my sincerest appreciation to you, to your family, Nicole and Lisa. Alyssa. Thank you so much, for allowing your dad to do this for you. Are we anticipating her to go into the law field as well?
Trying to get her to be a doctor.
Ah.
But I don't know.
That'll help mom and dad much better. Absolutely. Okay, and again, thank you for your willingness to continue to serve the people of Guam. And to your family again, and those who came to testify, and those who provided testimony who was not able to make it, it will be in for the record. We will ensure that. And that being said, I'd like to also note during today's proceedings for Judge Quan, his current term is set to expire on September 4th, 2026. Now we go into budget hearings in July, so we, given the importance and the urgency of his position to continue on, we are going to ask that the Speaker allow us to go into a short turn, to confirm you during the July session. So we'll probably have to recess and then go out and then come back in, but we will ensure that it does get through the process so that you are. So hopefully in July, during the budget. So, and I respectfully ask my colleagues for their support on that situation that we'll be faced with. So if there is no further comments or questions from my colleagues and anything from the listening audience, this will conclude the hearing and the appointment for Judge Jonathan R. Quan to serve as the magistrate judge. My office will continue to accept written testimonies on today's item within 5 business days from today, which may be mailed to my office at 283 Archbishop Flores Street, Suite 407 of the DNA building in Hagåtña. You may also send your written testimony to my office via email at senatortelot@gmail.com. Thank you all for your participation. Biba Betness, and create a great weekend. This hearing is now called to order. Adjourned. It is now 4:47 p.m. Thank you so much, everyone.